Welcome in, Bills Mafia. I'm Jeremy White, and we are welcoming in the true sickos that are ready to watch some post-game and talk about the preseason game that we just saw.
I'm Joe Marino, and I can't wait for week one.
This is the big O, Jerry Ostroski, and the Buffalo Bills were off today as they get 1 week closer to their season opener on Sunday Night Football versus the Baltimore Ravens. You're watching the Locked On Network, and this is the Bill Squad Show.
Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad Show starts now.
Come in, Bills Mafia. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Jerry Ostroski. After I shouldn't say after we started early because we had to make a call here. Like, guys, thank you. We all Circle of Trust decided we can't wait any longer. Oh my goodness, what a game. Where were you when the Bills got hammered in Chicago? Second straight year losing to the Bears in the preseason by 1,000,000 points. We know it doesn't matter, but we do have some things to take out of this game. You guys are both pretty staunchly looking forward to that regular season, Joe, right? Huh? It's your takeaway? Can't wait for the regular season?
Listen, the Bills were asleep. Jerry has some great points that I'm not going to steal from him on, where the Bills' focus was tonight, but please just save yourself the emotional exhaustion from overreacting to this. My Twitter feed is just blown up with questions about same old defense, nothing's different. It's the same scheme. All this stuff. Let's contextualize this. Let's take a deep breath. Let's pull out what's meaningful. Let's put aside what's not, and focus on that here in this post-game discussion.
Exactly. I think it's quite obvious when you listen to Sean McDermott talk, he could really give a rat's you-know-what about preseason games. He's about practice. He wants guys out on the field during practice, getting those reps in those controlled situations, and it's pretty obvious to me anyway, as the last 7.5 minutes of this game rattle off to my right. Their preseason game was Thursday when they had the joint practice with the Bears. I'm sure they did a lot of things in that game or in that practice that they didn't do tonight. And here's the other thing you got to look at. This is a story of two franchises, a beat-down franchise that has been successful in the past, that has a new head coach, that's trying to change the culture and the attitude of a team. So you have to take every possible thing as serious as you can to get that done before week one. Then you got another team on the other sideline that is there. They've arrived. I mean, this is a team that people are picking to be a Super Bowl contender, maybe go to the Super Bowl, win a division. And quite honestly, I would not doubt if a lot of those dudes didn't play tonight, we're on the Miracle Mile last night, having fine dinner and fine wine, because it's human nature, folks. It's the end of camp. And if you're not playing and you're not playing, I mean, it's hard to take some of these things seriously. So say what you will. It's human nature. We have other things to get into with this game as far as position analysis and things like that. But honestly, tale of two franchises, one trying to set the tone and the other one has already set the tone, and they're trying to survive and get to week one as healthy as they can be.
See, that's the great part about having Jerry Ostroski on the show. You can say that, right? I can't say that. Jeremy can't say that. You, as the former player, you could come on here and say those types of things, and that's a great part about the perspective that you bring. But you think about this, it's Sunday night. It's in Chicago. Caleb Williams' preseason debut with Ben Johnson, right? All this stuff this offseason's been about the coaching, the offensive line for Caleb Williams. You know what Sean McDermott says? Here's our backups. Go ahead. Go right ahead. And they got the headline they wanted. And I'm sure Sean McDermott's able to take this film right back to this team and talk about all the things they have to work on to get ready. So I think both teams got what they needed from this game. But to Jerry's point, obviously teams that are coming in with really, really different vantage points and what's going on in terms of their life cycles.
Well, to make a golf comparison, Jerry, you like these. I don't know if I've ever heard Scotty Scheffler answer questions about his practice round. He wins a tournament. Like, how was the driver on Tuesday? Whatever. Right. Who cares? Like, nobody really cares. we will have individual players to talk about here. Some guys had rough days, and there are some guys that might be on the roster bubble that are not feeling too good about their rough day. But to the point about the starters, so guys, we had kind of previewed this potential decision from Sean McDermott that the joint practice exists to get the reps you want. In the past, the Bills have done joint practices with teams that they've had relationships with. This time, schedule comes out. It's the Bears. Let's see if they want to do it. They get Josh Allen, everybody out there. They get their highlights, and then that's it. Like I saw, I think it was Josh Reed that first tweeted the warm-ups, like, who's out there? Everybody's out there running with the trainers, which was a good indication that no one of consequence was really going to play in this game outside of Cole Bishop, who needs the reps, and past that, like, who are the starters here, right? Like, how many true starters played tonight? Is the number less than 4?
Yeah, I think what Cole Bishop played, Josh Palmer played like the first
little
series.
Yep.
It's probably it.
Okay. Yeah, 2.
And not only did they not play starters, just look at the offensive line in general. I took notes. You have Chase Lund, who played all last week at left tackle. He's left guard. And Vandermark's back at left tackle, Green at center, and you've got Freeney, I believe, at right guard, and you've got Garage playing right tackle. It's like Cromer's over there piecemealing stuff together. Oh, yeah, let's see if Lund will be better at guard than he was. They're over there experimenting. And that's really what this whole thing tonight, to me anyway, was for the Bills. You saw Sanders playing some one technique. I think you even saw Deone Walker. Now, maybe it was a misalignment. He was in a 3, and I'm going, it was like Bill Nye the Science Guy was on the sideline, and they were just running experiments all night.
Well, and they're rushing 5 and 6. They're blitzing like crazy with no man coverage talent available against the Bears starters. Like, what do you think that's going to look like?
And a backup middle linebacker whose major flaw is coverage.
Yeah.
And then we go ahead and we want to focus on the safeties and just absolutely grill the safety room that we don't have any safeties. And those dudes were in a straight bind all night long. They had 2 to 3 guys running at them that were running free. It's like there was a couple plays. I thought the one play with Bishop early in the bunch look and not getting inside leverage and letting the receiver come across inside, that was probably, a missed assignment there. But, I mean, they were in a bind all night long because there were free runners all night long.
I think there was a 3rd down play against the Bills defense where you had 2 Bears receivers in the same spot, which is not normal. That's not a correct football play, but they were both open. What am I watching right now? It was a disaster.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to comment, drop us a comment. We'll try to get to as many as we can that are not freaking out. Long ago, I started talking on WGR about the preseason pledge, the things you have to kind of take as they come. Caden Davis misses a long kick. That counts, right? Feels like kickers, they still try to make field goals.
Yeah, that
counts. Past that, I'm getting Mike White versus Trubisky. By the time Trubisky goes into this game, like, that was a real competition last week. And I think that Mike White getting the start is an indication that Sean McDermott was going to treat it like a true competition. Like, okay, let's see how this team goes out there and plays with Mike White as QB1 tonight. And it did not go well for him. His numbers not nearly as good as last week for whatever reason. If things just didn't line up, if the line didn't protect, Mike White 4 of 11, 54 yards. He's sacked twice. I saw a lot of reaction, Joe, that was Trubisky has won the job and he hasn't even played yet tonight. That Mike White was just not good enough. 4 for 11. But again, how much should we take from it on a night where everything looks like that? Just about everybody looked about as good as Mike White tonight.
Yeah, the Bills were overmatched when Mike White was in the game against the Bears starting defense, and you just felt like the team didn't have much rhythm. And one of the questions that I had filed away to ask Jerry about was the challenges for the offensive line when you're working with different quarterbacks in the cadence piece, because you saw some challenges procedurally with some false starts, and it felt like Ryan Vandermark was just not synced up with the cadence of Mike White. Is that a real thing? Is there an adjustment for the offensive line dealing with those different cadences, especially in the preseason?
Without a doubt, there's an extreme difference in all 3 quarterbacks, and it's hard to get used to one, and another one comes in, and they're a little bit different, and their timing's different. So yes, I mean, that is something that is completely real and relevant. when you're talking about a group of guys trying to roll off the football, at the snap of the ball, and all these cadences are different. It's hard to anticipate. I'm not sure the Vandermark's 2 false starts were because of cadence. I thought it was because of maybe a little bit of panic where he wanted to make sure he was back in one spot and get off the ball. But no, it is definitely challenging to work with different quarterbacks.
We've reached the 2-minute warning in the game. We'll keep you updated as things go. We started ourselves here before the game got finished. It's 38-0 Bears, and they're looking to punch it in again. So this thing could be 45-0 before too long. Not the Bears' night. And Ben Johnson, I like this point you guys have made, that Ben Johnson changed the culture, show offensively he's got what it takes, and he waited for this job. I wanted to ask you about Caleb Williams, guys, and your thoughts on him coming into last year, because I want to relate this to the Bills and the quarterback arc, right? Everybody wants their quarterback to take the Josh Allen arc. First year, he shows some flashes. He takes 1 million sacks. The offense looks disjointed. Now he gets an upgraded coach, and we'll see where it goes. How did you feel about Caleb Williams coming in as a prospect? I remember last year in the preseason game, he makes 2-3 throws that to me are wow throws, and I thought he's every bit as good of a prospect as, a top 5 quarterback should be. But this year, maybe a breakout year, and whatever. He looked really in command against backups, but he looked pretty good tonight, and Ben Johnson had things cooked up pretty well tonight.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think if you're a Bears fan, you should be really excited about what Caleb Williams did. I mean, even if it's against the Bills backups, he came in, he ran the offense, he was in rhythm, he was confident, the arm talent looked awesome. He was terrific. There's no way around that. And for me, my journey with Caleb Williams as a prospect is recognizing the physical upside. He's got arm talent, he's got mobility, he's got creativity as a playmaker, which gives him a really high ceiling to develop into this dynamic playmaker. I think the challenge for Caleb Williams has been just run the offense. Can you just do the normal things? And, I think we consider these quarterbacks, and, let's say that there's 45 dropbacks per game. For 35 of them, every quarterback should do the exact same thing. It's the 10 plays that you should then lean into what makes you unique, that changes your offense. And I thought for Caleb, it was just finding consistency with the normal stuff, because we know that you can do special things, but can you just run the offense? And I think this was a good indicator of kind of where it's headed with Ben Johnson, because that's exactly what he did tonight. Nothing was second guessing. He wasn't holding. He wasn't, putting the offensive line in some bad positions. He was confident, throwing the ball accurately down the field. He looked really good. And I know that there's context with it, but if I'm a Bears fan, I'm coming away really encouraged by this debut of Caleb Williams under Ben Johnson.
I think the Bears fans should be excited, because that's what they drafted him to do, was be that type of quarterback. But I will say this, with extensive experience of Caleb Williams when he was at OU and then bailed on the Sooners and went to USC, Caleb Williams has been a soft player that is a premier front runner that's career has been dictated by his father. And you know what? When things are easy for Caleb Williams, you see what you had tonight. That was easy. I want to see what he does when it gets tough, when he gets hit in the face a couple times, gets some sacks, and yardage is tough, and they're playing a team with a tough defense and those types of things. That's when I will get super excited, when I see him perform like he did tonight against that type of situation, because to me, this is classic Caleb Williams. It was easy for him tonight. And I think the best thing that the Bears did was bring in Johnson as his head coach, because he's going to be demanding. He's not going to let him slide and do what he normally does, which is throw fits, and then people get okay and get tired of it and standoffish. This guy is perfect for him. And if he will listen to Johnson, you will have more of these performances than you will the old Caleb Williams, which is you have no idea what you're going to get.
Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Gametime. Final score, 38-0. The Bears over the Bills in preseason game number 2 for the Bills. And some of the other numbers to get to here, the Bears' final yardage totals, 528 to 180 in this game. Suffice to say, if this were a regular season game, we would be talking quite a bit about a lot of things. We'll get some of your comments, some of the big plays in this game, whether it's, you guys mentioned a couple plays, one with Cole Bishop, the young defensive lineman. I want to talk about Landon Jackson, Deone Walker, TJ Sanders, what you saw from them, because they got out there a bit. And Buffalo Joe, I think Buffalo Joe's on the field the entire game, pretty close. He's out there at the end. So not exactly the thing you want to see when you're a player, to be out there at the end, never mind the entire game. So we will get a break in, get your comments in. It is the Bills Squad Show. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry Ostroski here as we wrap up the Bills' loss. 38-0. Holy cow. Trounced in Chicago. More with you next. Yahoo Fantasy Sports. That's right, Yahoo Fantasy. I did a draft on Yahoo earlier tonight before the game. And Yahoo Fantasy is celebrating with a lot of new things right now. Yahoo Fantasy turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, if you're playing Yahoo Fantasy, you should, or if you're a first-timer, you can jump in. They're celebrating 28 years of fantasy football greatness with 28 big new features over 28 days throughout the month of August. So to kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing fantasy football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. 528 on the total yards for the Bears. They have a banner day, and I don't know if it moves the needle in Chicago for their expectations, but they're hoping to have a great season. Of course, the Bills, they're not too concerned with the preseason. We're about the postseason in Buffalo. That said, here we are to break it down. Gentlemen, one of the things I wanted to get into with the safeties. Jerry, you laid out that the defense is such a mess back there. The safeties are probably, they're in a blender. They're being asked to do things they normally wouldn't be asked to do. And what I guess I want to ask is, both of you, Jerry, let's start with you. Like, when Joe did his Locked On NFL most important players for the Bills this year, I was someone that ranked Cole Bishop very highly. I think higher than anybody else, because I think of the Sean McDermott defense and how it runs through the safeties. And Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop not getting a lot of time on task. Bishop gets reps out there. We see some Hamlin. What's your level of confidence in the safeties as they enter the regular season? Because the test right out of the gate is a big one in Baltimore.
I think, and this might not be popular opinion, but it is in what I believe. I still believe that physical safeties alter passing games. And I think the most important thing for the Bills in the defense and secondary anyway is we've seen that we can get by with DeMar Hamlin. We hope to be able to have Cole Bishop as a viable starter. That's why we drafted him in the second round. But the most important safety in that room is Rapp. And I think that when Rapp's not on the field, all of a sudden the leadership is out the window. The physicality and the fear of going across the middle is out the window. And that's why that area is a little bit, deficient to me anyway. It's more along the lines of Rapp than it is the others.
Well, I go back to what Sean McDermott has been saying about Cole Bishop, and it's that he's missed so much time that he hasn't been able to really get the system down, and we haven't been able to see his true skill set. And, now this is a guy that he's missed, the last 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more. He's back for the joint practice on Friday, and he plays a series in this game. And, he has a missed tackle and got turned around on the long touchdown to Lamade Zaccheaus. And so you see a guy that just looks under-repped right now. And I think he needed to get some time on the field, right? I think that's what he needs at this point. But I don't think we know what he is. I understand why you would be discouraged. You should be discouraged. He hasn't given us anything to be excited about. But I don't think that we've learned enough about Cole Bishop to be defining his career at this point. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of the ramp up to the season, and we can get a chance to see what this guy can really do in 2025 and allow that story to write itself. But I just don't think, again, we haven't really learned anything good, but I don't think it's fair to define the guy's career yet at this point.
And Joe brings up a great point. Under-repped, but also under speed. He hasn't, when you have vets that don't play, they've had a ton of regular season games, a ton of playoff games. They understand what that speed is like, and they adjust accordingly. A guy like Bishop, who missed so much time last year and now missed a bunch of time this year, just doesn't have that adjustment to the speed yet. So it's not only just assignment, it's speed as well, the speed of the game and being out there. He might have been thinking the right thing, but the speed was completely different than what he's seen. Until he gets a lot of those game reps under his belt anyway, I think he's going to struggle just because of that speed adjustment.
Is that the kind of thing, Jerry, where he's doing, you would expect a player that's still kind of getting the system and trying to find his way, a player to be a little bit slow reacting, because you're doing too much reacting and it's not fully instinctive at that point. When you're in a system long enough, you just kind of play and you know it so well that you play faster because you know faster.
Right, you play fast. As long as this is engaged too much, the rest of the body can't perform. You've got to be able to play free. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to, use your instincts because you've got those reps under you. You understand what's going on, and it's, but it goes hand in hand. And he could probably go up on a whiteboard and write everything up and draw it up and get 100%. But until you get out in the real bullets, it's difficult. It just really is.
How do you think they attack this third preseason game against Tampa? I mean, has Sean gotten what he needs out of this ramp up to the season? Does he feel like because of the injuries and guys are coming back that they need some game experience? I am really curious to see how this affects their plan for the Tampa game to close this thing out. Do we see Josh at all? Will he completely not play this preseason? Do we want to see Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop out there for a little bit of time? I mean, even the offensive line, they want to get some reps. They haven't had that group yet get game reps. I know they have a ton of game reps over the last few years, but I'm fascinated to see how these decisions play out for that third preseason game.
Well, it's like a math problem, not enough information. And I think the biggest thing is I don't know what the relationship is with Bean and McDermott and how much they sit down and talk and say, okay, this is what we're going to do this preseason game. Does McDermott want to play all the guys? And Bean says no. Or is it vice versa? Or, so it's like, to me anyway, this is the game you play everybody.
Yeah.
This is the game you play your guys, not the week before the regular season. So I think you saw what you're going to see next week. But the difference will be probably you won't see Baker Mayfield. You won't see Mike Evans. You won't see, those guys from Tampa Bay. It'll be more backups versus backups. But to me anyway, with the lack of an extra preseason game, because like we've talked about on the show, week 3 was always the week. Played a half, went in the locker room, played one series out of the locker room, took the pads off, you were done. That was it. Now, I mean, what we saw tonight, I don't expect to see him next week either.
With that point, does McDermott do anything different? I guess we'll have to see what he says about this game and feel his mood here. I can remember going back previous Bills coaches. Doug Marrone was mad, really mad they lost the Hall of Fame game, and I thought that was so silly. It was late. It's backups. This is one where there are enough depth players that I'm just going to bring up this idea again. I agree, preseason pledge. I'm all about that. But, Joe, are there enough players out there that are of the Bills' actual roster in depth where a Bills fan watching tonight would see what happened and think maybe the depth isn't as good as I thought it was? Because it's a full depth. Basically, it's a full depth team that played tonight.
Right. And I think here's the thing about depth players. With other depth players, they're not going to look very good. But when you insert a depth player with a regular starting lineup, it's a different situation. So when you see Joe Andreessen have the struggles that he had, or DeMar Hamlin have the struggles that he had in this game, within the context of a regular defense, it's going to be a lot more manageable to work with the deficiencies that exist. You have deficient players all over the place. And so I think that we still have to remember that football is an ultimate team sport, and you have to do your 1/11th. And well, that's going to look a lot different when you're next to, starting caliber players as opposed to being surrounded by a bunch of reserves, especially in those series where it was Bills reserves versus Bears starters.
Exactly. I mean, this isn't hockey. We're not playing 4 lines and then shortening the bench when we need a goal late in the game. I mean, this is a situation where depth is used amongst the normal starting group. So I think if anything, what this shows is maybe some of the deficiencies of certain players in certain areas. But, if I take Walker and put him out there with Daquan or whoever or Ed Oliver, he's going to be just fine. But if I stick him next to Landon Jackson and then TJ Sanders, and I got 3 rookies across the board, all of a sudden it's like, damn, So I don't think you can base depth or lack of bench talent on, those guys playing all together tonight. I mean, we don't do that.
Final score, Bears 38, Bills 0 in this game. We can talk about the defense and how a lot of pieces are missing. The offense is playing backups as well. Room to be a little bit disappointed in the passing game. Mike White, Mitch Trubisky, receivers. There's an Elijah Moore drop. Maybe there's a play where Tyrell Shavers is a half step away from a nice big play. You did not get maybe a step up from anybody in the passing game. And that's one spot where I think Bills fans might be kind of looking for someone to show a little more. Keon Coleman had a good joint practice by all accounts. Shakir, we know, but more Samuel, still non-factor, of course, but more Shavers, room for a little disappointment in what happened there tonight.
For Moore, I think so. I mean, he had 2 drops, and then he misread the leverage of that block, went outside and put Zach Davidson in a bad spot. He winds up getting called for the face mask there. I really like what I saw from Shaves. Once again, you see really, really good work in his release package, and then that ability to create some vertical separation down the field. I'm really impressed with it. And he draws a pass interference call. And honestly, he was on the back shoulder. He came in with the back shoulder throw. Great adjustment. And then the one, it was Mike White threw the ball. I mean, we're talking about just a half a yard long. I know that Greg Olson on the broadcast had some criticisms for Shavers for looking back for the ball. He needed to be a little bit later with his hands, maybe slowed him down. But I mean, I thought that was overall a pretty strong outing for Tyrell Shavers. And you're talking about competing to make a roster. Who's been better this preseason, Elijah Moore or Tyrell Shavers? Curtis Samuel hasn't done a thing. What is Curtis Samuel's resume right now to claim one of these 53 spots on the roster outside of his contract is sticky? So I think Tyrell Shavers among the receivers continues to do the most to make a claim to make this roster.
Could the Bills be a little, I don't think actually disappointed that Samuel's getting healthy, but if he's getting closer, that is going to push fast forward on any sort of decision. If his hamstring's still an issue, they can put him on injured reserve designated to return. But if he's close, it's decision time.
Me personally, I think it's criminal if Shavers doesn't make the team. I mean, if everything about Shavers is if you practice what you preach, which is, bring in your own, develop them, get them ready to play, and then go out on the field and produce, this guy's done all that. He's bided his time. He's been on the practice squad. He's learned. He's developed his body. I mean, to me, he gives us something that we don't have in any other receiver, which is size and more verticality. I don't know what else the guy needs to do. If he does not make this roster, to me, it would be criminal. And honestly, if he doesn't make the roster and they think they're going to sneak him on the practice squad, they're crazy. He'll get picked up by somebody. So they either keep him or he's somewhere else. I don't see him on the practice squad.
Frank Gore Jr. ends up being the leading rusher and receiver for the Bills in this game. Frank Gore Jr. with 51 yards on 8 carries, an average of 6.4, and 4 catches for 30 yards, an average was 7.5. So, we could say the whole game is made up of garbage time. That's the preseason. It's backups, but he continues to kind of show a little bit here for these Bills, and probably a practice squad in his future. I don't think he's in much danger of getting scooped up, but when he's called upon, Joe, he's giving the Bills a little juice.
Yeah, I think this has been 2 really strong performances from Frank Gore. Even last year in the preseason, I thought he looked pretty strong. Then, of course, he does fumble. The Bills kind of had their best opportunity to score in this game, and then he coughs it up. So it's like, oh, here you go. You can't have nice things. You had one good thing to talk about offensively, and then Frank Gore coughs up the football. I think the challenge with Frank Gore is just limited, right? He's just limited physically, but he's got football skill. Like you can just tell when he has the ball in his hands, he's got a really nice feel for navigating space. For a guy that's not the biggest, he is pretty physical and is able to get some yards after contact. You see some good work in the passing game. And I want to check the tape on this, but I thought there was some really good reps of him in pass protection where they kept him in and he was able to scan and help where he was needed. So I thought it was a strong all-around performance from Frank Gore, but then, of course, the wet blanket over top of that is he coughs off the football when the Bills had their best opportunity to score.
It's something I look at and I get excited about because being a former player and being in tough situations, I look for things like Frank Gore Jr. and the things that he does because it just shows like it means something to him. Like he is, no matter what, if it's the first quarter or the last quarter, he gets a rep, it means something to him. He is battling his rear end off to try to do the best he can. And he knows he's in an uphill battle with that room. I mean, that room is set. But he's still out there instead of going, trying to count the numbers and be like, there's no way I make this team. He's trying to do everything he can to be productive. And I applaud that. I think that's awesome. I love what he's doing. I think Shavers is that way too. I think, while everybody keeps trying to count all these other spots, all he does is show up and be productive. And that's a big deal to me.
As we search through a 38-0 score, you might think not a lot of positives, not a lot. But what if I offered you guys, they got a lot of kick returns. Laviska Shenault, 3, Codrington, 2, Hamler, 1, Elijah Moore, 1 on kick returns. Did we learn anything in their kick return game here?
No, I thought they were all fine. I thought the decision making was fine. I thought Brandon Codrington did a really good job on his the punt return that he didn't field and let go into the end zone, which we have seen. Sometimes these preseason returners can get really aggressive and really want to show that they can make a play and lose sight of just doing the fundamentally sound thing. And I thought Codrington did a good job on that one punt return to let it go for a touchback. And I thought they were all fine. I don't think there was an explosive return. I thought they got the available yards, but I think the interesting thing about this new kickoff return is that it becomes a run play. And so I think we always want a speed dynamic out of these returners, but to me, it really comes down to you got to break one tackle. I think that's, even you watch some of the big returns that have happened under this new format, you got to break a tackle. Of course, the speed element matters. And so I'd be thinking about who gives me the best opportunity to break a tackle. Now, I want this player to bring a good amount of value to the roster in other ways, but I think the differences in punt and kick return create some challenges for guys to do both, because I think the skill sets required to do a punt return versus a kick return are pretty different. But I thought all of the guys fared well. I'm not sure that we saw anything tonight that would separate one from the other than Codrington's the guy that continues to prove to be able to handle both roles. He got some work in the slot tonight. I don't think he played particularly well. I've never been impressed with him playing actual defense, but he's probably the Bills' best option as a returner. It just, does he carry enough overall value to roster him for only that?
I think fine is a great way to look at it. And I think the Buffalo Bills are wishing that one of these guys would just take it and go with it to make the decision easy. And it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see. We'll probably go into week 3 with the same situation and everybody getting reps. And maybe one of these guys will take control of that return game. But I think fine is a wonderful way to look at it.
Well, not to get super nerdy here, because I don't think game script really matters in the preseason, but the Bills kind of won the field position battle in this game. It didn't matter. Yeah. These were some crazy scoring drives with the Bears. They go 7 plays, 92 yards, 12 plays, 86 yards, 5 plays, 61, 12 plays, 84, 14 plays, 86. Those are all touchdown drives. That's crazy. The Bills had them pinned back. The opening kick was an amazing kick by Caden Davis, where if you can get that ball to hit the ground in the landing zone, and then it becomes a live ball, even if it goes into the end zone, they have to pick it up and return it. Like, they forced him to go 92, and Caleb Williams says, fine, we'll go 92. There was a couple of really nice punts by Brad Robbins, where he's able to, he had like a 60-yard net after only a 2-yard return. He had another 50-something yard net that cost a fair catch. The Bills kicking, like, in terms of field position, kickoffs and punting, it was phenomenal. It just obviously didn't matter with zero resistance that the defense had.
Right. I guess the only negative of the night kicking wise was the missed field goal. Other than that, it was an exceptional
yards,
job. Right. But you're right. 56
comes in cold, right? Like sudden change. I don't think he was expecting to.
Yeah.
You like him to make it, right? That's a different story. If he makes it, you're like, oh, maybe Caden Davis can go. Right. I think that was a tough spot to come in and have to kick, though.
Brad Robbins punting at 6 punts for 293 yards. That's a big number punting. You don't necessarily want that.
How many punting yards did the Bills even have last year? Like, what percentage of the punting yards from the 2024 regular season were achieved in this preseason game?
I know, going way back to some of the drought years, that I looked it up, and there were a couple times that Brian Moorman had more punting yards than the Bills had passing yards in a season. Like, that's how you know that's not the life you want as a football fan or whatever. As a team, you do not want that life, and the Bills have had years where they did that. So this game, more punting yards than total yards. It happens. 38-0 the final. Joe, I know you've got an all 22 to get to. I want to ask you, maybe some preliminary who you want to get a look at when we get back, because we'll get a break in. If you want to drop a comment, like and subscribe. Of course, we're here late night. We've got 1,200 people watching. You guys are sickos.
Let's go.
We're all sickos. Like, this is a Sunday night preseason game. The Bills got hammered by the Bears, and we're talking about it with you here on the Bill Squad Show. BetterHelp. It's about helping yourself. And when it comes to BetterHelp, this episode brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, detoxes. How do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, BetterHelp can help you. That's right. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. So therapy makes a difference for a lot of people. Build positive coping skills, learn how to set boundaries, trusted professionals to talk things through with people who can cut through the noise. Over 30,000 therapists. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. It's easy to fit in your schedule. A click to connect. You can even switch therapists anytime you need to. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. So, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Jerry Ostroski, and a lot of you here in a Bills reaction show. 38-0 to the Bears. The final number on the scoreboard, the final number in total yards, equally ugly, even more so. It's 528 to 180. The Bills sit a lot of starters, so it's an opportunity to look at some depth players. Joe, short list of all 22 targets. Like, who do you come in thinking, I want to see how so-and-so played? I mean, Deone Walker, noticed him a couple times, and he had a nice opener in the preseason. So give us the short list. Who do you think is worth a second look in your all 22 review?
Well, first of all, I normally really look forward to the all 22 review. It's one of my favorite parts of the week. This time, boy, we're gonna struggle through it. But part of what I like to do with the all 22 review is I do have things that I'm looking for, but a lot of times I just let it speak to me. Like, watch the plays, what was the intent, who executed well, who struggled, and let it speak to me organically. But I'm definitely going to be interested in the trenches, especially the young defensive linemen. TJ Sanders, Deone Walker, Dwayne Carter, Landon Jackson, Javon Solomon in particular, where they got some reps against the Bears starters. I want to get a good feel for how they fared, especially the interior guys, because last week against the Giants, they didn't play against the starters. In fact, they were kind of in the Bills' third wave against the Giants, and you're going up against second and third offensive linemen for the Giants, and the Giants' starting offensive line's not really that sound. And so I want to get a nice little feel for those young defensive linemen. I think that'll be interesting. And then, of course, like Chase Lunt and Ryan Vandemark, guys that have a chance to make this team along the offensive line. Jackson Hawes at tight end will be a player that's interesting to me, and where he kind of fell into this. I think he was targeted one time, but the blocking piece with Jackson Hawes is what gets interesting. So, we'll let it speak to me organically, but I definitely, it's those young defensive linemen that'll be the primary focus of what I want to get out of the all 22 watch.
No,
Jerry,
I think, that's where I'm at. Is the defensive line,
which is the story of the offseason, right? Like how they look.
Well, for instance, I think I want to see TJ Sanders because there's a couple times where you watched him face true blue downhill double teams, and he struggled a little bit. And then the next play, they slant him, and he's in the backfield, and he has a chance to make a tackle for loss. So just the intricacies of what these guys were drafted and they do well and seeing it on the field. Of course, Walker, I want to watch even more. He's kind of an enigma, this guy, man. Like, it doesn't make sense that he is being as productive, I think, as he is right now in the preseason, considering the injury, the time off. The Bills staff obviously did a heck of a job. And then the other thing is I hate long goodbyes. So I'm going to watch this guy a lot just to burn the memory in my head until week 8. But Michael Hoyt, man, that's like he's slowly becoming my favorite player. Not only because of the plays he makes, but because and this is a term of endearment, so please don't take this as a negative. He's a true blue meathead, man. He's a football meathead. He loves ball. You can tell he loves ball. He had a couple of rushes tonight where he tried to do jump throughs. It looked like he was trying to do a Euro step.
That's part of that's one of his moves, man. Yeah. He's got that in the bag. It's
so you've seen the Euro step.
Oh yeah. It's on tape for sure.
All he needs to do is finish it like Fat Perez and do the up the thing. But it's just I want to watch him just so that I don't forget him for the games that he's not out there because he can play.
I have a question for Jerry. And I got to give credit to Thad Brown for uncovering this because he went through and researched the worst preseason losses for the Bills. And so now this is the worst preseason loss for the Bills dating back at least 50 years. The other record.
Was Jerry, I on the team?
You sure were. We need to hear about this. At Kansas City, 1997, a 35-3 preseason loss. Jerry, did you guys cancel the season? What happened?
I've tried to tell you guys for a long time that Marv and Sean have a lot of similarities, and Marv did not give a rat's about preseason either. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. I mean, there was only a couple times where we were out there for more than a few series, but after that, it was on the bench. So, I remember it.
McDermott in postgame has said that was not up to our standards, certainly not what we expect, whether it's 1s, 2s, or 3s. To follow that question up, Jerry, does a team watch the film of these games, or is it back to work on Baltimore? Like how much useful footage is there from however many hours of tapes there will be?
Well, it depends on who the guys playing are. I mean, if you've got guys that are kind of vets or whatever, maybe you do the whole, we're over it. We're not even going to watch the film. We're moved on to the next week. I don't think you do that with this film because you played all these guys that you got to rely on. You got to rely on Joe Andreessen if there's injuries. You got to rely on TJ Stainers. You got to rely on Deone Walker. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? Ryan Vandermark might have to come in and play in a pinch. There's too many guys that are on that field that are going to have to possibly play a lot or some meaningful snaps during the season. So by all means, you need to watch it, especially if the staff watches it and sees that there's quite a bit of concern for the level of, I want to say, importance or the level of competition. Maybe guys didn't compete quite enough or compete at the level they should have. There's a lot of teaching points on this film, and they by all means need to watch it.
One thing that really stands out to me about the Bills calendar, right? So you think about this training camp calendar that they have. It's like 2.5 weeks at St. John Fisher, and then they finish camp in Orchard Park. I always wonder about the intentionality of what the Bills do and don't do for those 2.5 weeks at St. John Fisher, where almost every practice is open to the public. And, obviously there's going to be video and different things that come out from those sessions compared to, all right, now it's in Orchard Park. You just have the local beat reporters that are in attendance. There's no fans that are out there. And do they become a little bit more deliberate about the things that they work on, the groupings, different things like that? And they become a little bit, more close to the vest. I know that the Bills typically are anyways, but is there that moment where they get back to Orchard Park and things change a little bit with the intentionality of what the Bills work on during that time compared to when there's a lot of eyeballs on them?
I agree to an extent. We were at camp that Wednesday and they ran a lot of different things and, of course didn't hide everything, but I think you're 100% correct, especially when it comes to Ravens prep. I think that's why you've seen, like tonight when they did run the 5 and 6 men pressures, it was nothing elaborate. It was nothing that was, extravagant or you've never seen before. Extra linebacker here, extra linebacker there, maybe bring a safety, stuff that you practice as we would practice that stuff ourselves, just to see it, just to be ready for it. So no, I think you're 100% correct, especially with this crew. This crew is secret squirrel, man. They give that vibe off. Like It would not shock me if they didn't have a person at the Giants game that watched the field, watched the process, and then reported back to McDermott, "Hey, this is what I saw." When Ryan Nielsen's drawing up fronts and doing different things on the grease board, I can see that from the press box with my binoculars. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't doubt if they do not evaluate the procedural process of game day, because I think that Sean's that thorough in his his preparation and how he handles things. So I think, Joe, you're 100% correct. There's stuff at Orchard Park that they do that you won't see in St. John Fisher.
A couple of people in the chat bringing up Buffalo Joe Andreessen, and it might be early to kind of ask this. He had a rough night, if we could say that, at preseason. And I feel like with him, it might be fair to bring this up because this time last year is when he showed, holy cow, this guy can play. It was the Pittsburgh game, right? It was the real moment where everybody kind of found that. So what was it about tonight that made it a rough night for him? Jerry, is it easy to just kind of diagnose what happened? They put him in coverage and they normally wouldn't do that much?
Yeah, they played Pittsburgh. What Pittsburgh probably do, ran the ball a bunch. And he did what he does best, which is diagnose blocks, play half of blocks, get where he's supposed to be and make plays. He's not the purest of Tampa 2 middle linebackers. Terrell Bernard's probably one of the best Tampa 2 linebackers in the league. So you're going from the best in the league to, and I'm not trying to discredit Joe. I'm just saying that there's a reason why Terrell Bernard got an extension, right? And Joe was an undrafted guy that got signed out of a tryout. That's not bad, okay? That's it. But they're later round guys, and guys that are free agents are that way for a reason. They have some sort of deficiency that you got to learn to work around. And Joe's is obviously coverage, especially with the fact his blueprint. I mean, I know Bernard's not big, but he's got some length to him, right? And he has that knack to play that deep middle. Joe's not a big dude, and he's not when I say big dude, he's not a tall guy. So it's not like he's altering throwing lanes either when he's back there. I mean, you saw him that one time. He kind of ran and put full force into the jump to try to play that one ball where maybe somebody else like an Edmonds or somebody easily knocks it down because of just the size differential.
I think with Joe Andreessen, he's a very good downhill player, but the coverage stuff is where you have a lot of questions. And that's what has me curious about Shaq Thompson. And he's been injured, right? He missed a lot of time with a hamstring, but before that, I thought he was playing really well. And I think the challenge that the Bills have with their linebacker depth is that you don't have a linebacker 3 that is interchangeable. I think that assuming, let's put Shaq Thompson off to the side. If Terrell Bernard goes down, I think Joe Andreessen's the first in. If Matt Milano goes down, I think Dorian Williams is the first in, but it's not the other way around. I don't think Dorian Williams would do well in the Mike linebacker role, and I don't think that Joe Andreessen, I know Joe Andreessen would not do well in the weak side linebacker role. The thing about Shaq Thompson is he's legitimately experienced doing both, and there's the whole element of, hey, you got the green dot, you got to be the play caller in the huddle for the defense, and that's also something that Shaq Thompson has experience doing. And so I know he's a little out of sight, out of mind. We'd love to have seen him in the preseason, but I do wonder where Shaq Thompson truly slots into this linebacker equation for the Bills.
Right. I think we tried that Dorian Williams at Mike linebacker experiment already. In my world, we call Dorian Williams a see ball, but get ball guy.
Yeah.
He sees the ball. He's fast. He goes, makes plays. And he had a bunch of tackles again tonight because that's what he does well. But to drop back in the deep middle and play pure pass coverage is not his gig.
No, at Tulane, he never did like that.
No.
And he literally, I remember that was in my notes on Dorian Williams. Does he ever run a play where he goes backwards? It didn't really happen at Tulane.
Nope.
One quick note, no update right now. Jordan Hancock left the game with an injury. He was one of the bright spots until that happened. Like, he put together a couple of nice plays. So we'll wait for the latest on Jordan Hancock. And when we get back, a quote from Sean McDermott that might lead us into a conversation about what happens against Tampa, whether or not some players that are pretty important have to play. Which one is it? You guys might have a guess here. I'll get you that McDermott quote when we return here on the Bill Squad Show. All right, welcome back, Bills Mafia. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Jerry Ostroski wrapping up this Bills-Bears reaction show. 38-0, Bears win. Dominate the Bills start to finish. The Bills sat a lot of important players. Cole Bishop did play, And McDermott on Cole Bishop simply said, in being asked about Bishop, quote, he needs more experience. He needs more reps. He also went on to say he was limited because he's on a rep count with that. I wanted to get him some more reps. He needs more experience. He needs more reps. Could McDermott be desperate enough to get him more reps to have him out there against Tampa in the final preseason game, which is 6 days away? Because there's only one way to get him reps, really. That's to get him on the field. Of course, the practice field counts too. But what do you think happens with Bishop?
I think that by all means he has to play. He's missed too much time, and we already know, you can't protect him from injury. And even if he does get hurt, we know that we have a multi-time starter that can play for him in a pinch the following week, which is Damar Hamlin. And while a lot of people don't find that, the perfect world or the perfect scenario, that's the cold, hard truth. And the only way, it's like we talked about earlier, the only way that Cole Bishop gets better is to face the live bullets and face the speed. And so, by all means, he needs to play the next preseason game.
Let me say this about Damar Hamlin. I really struggle to understand how he's become a punching bag for the fan base. This guy's a day 3 pick that has been re-signed, and he's the 64th highest paid safety in the NFL. What are your expectations for that guy? Like, why is there this expectation that this guy's going to come out there and be this impact starter? He's a depth player. He can hold his head above water as a depth player, but stop expecting him to be anything more than a day 3 pick that is the 64th highest paid player at his position. He's a fine depth player. Nobody's pounding the table for him to start or claim him to be a difference maker. But every time that guy screws up, feels like there's a little more venom towards him than just about anyone else.
And if anything, be happy you got him on your team, because all the answers that you've tried to bring in to fix the Damar Hamlin problem continually blow up. Bishop continually gets hurt. You bring in Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards never sniffs the field one. You bring in Forrest from the Washington Redskins. I don't even think he's in the top 3.
Yeah.
So every time they bring somebody in, it's like I said before, say what you will, dog cuss him, do whatever. Damar's going to show up, and Damar's going to do the best he can and play hard. And you know what? If you want to be upset at somebody, figure out why they can't find, his replacement.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Got a comment here from a person in the feed. The venom is more towards McDermott for continuing to put us in a situation where he has to be our starter. And that's what I'll ask you here, guys, because when the Bills signed Tre'Davious White, the general thought was the Bills raise their floor if they have to go to depth at corner in Tre'Davious White. And Hamlin and Derek Forrest come back. Cam Lewis is in the mix. He's been here forever. Whatever. We'll have to see how it happens with Bishop and Rapp, and health is a factor here. But should they have done more behind Bishop just in case as a bit of a fallback plan than they have?
How do you with the cap situation you're in?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I think you'd always want to have the best imaginable players. It's just when you can't optimize that, have somebody that knows what the heck they're supposed to do, even if they have deficiencies. I think that's what the Bills value, is somebody that can go in there that has some experience in the system to be able to at least function. But look around the league. It's not like there's teams brimming with depth at these spots. This is what you have to do, is kind of figure it out and deal with things on the fly. But I don't really take much exception with appreciating having experience in your reserve roles.
Well, think of it this way. There's a few ways you can look at it. You can go back to the draft and spend your first-round pick on a guy like Starks, which would be crazy to me to take another first-round safety after taking a second-round safety the year before. You can go out and try to sign the best guy you can. Well, you don't have any money to do that. So you do what you hope to do, which is go out and find the most cost-effective veteran, a player you don't have to develop because you're already developing one now. So you bring in a guy that hopefully has the game experience that can step in. And unfortunately, they've done that the last 2 years, and they got burnt last year on it. And it looks like this year it's not going to work either. So, it's just really hard situation to be in.
Sean McDermott always talks about how the defense, it starts up front, right? And I believe that to be true. And you know what's going to make whatever safety or whatever corner a whole lot better is when that front seven's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to see like those investments up front have to hit, because if they don't, it's going to be a lot harder on the guys on the back end, which I think we learned a hard lesson about that last year, and what you saw from Rasul Douglas and DeMar Hamlin having to play a good amount and Cole Bishop having to step in. And, your second level is, for a lot of games, you're playing the Baltimore Ravens with Balin Spector, Dorian Williams, and Cam Lewis as your second. Like, what do you expect these guys to do? So I think that this front is really where we have to see the growth. And I think all of a sudden Cole Bishop will be a whole lot better safety, and all these other different players will be a lot better if they get that front to do what it's supposed to do.
100% on that comment, because we've not seen any packages yet. I mean, it's all been individual stuff. Young guys go out with young guys, older, think about that. I dream about this stuff. I got TJ Sanders on one side and I got Ed Oliver on the other side in a third down situation with Joey Bosa on one side and Groot, or week 8, Michael Hoyt on the other side.
Yeah.
And it looks like a bunch of Ginsu knives flying around. I think about bringing Ed Oliver out, and all of a sudden I got Deone Walker, who's so damn big. We got to anchor him at the center, which creates Ed's going to get penetration, lines coming forward. It's creating lanes. I dream about this stuff. We haven't done that yet because we're not in that situation yet. It's not game week. It's preseason. So I think the pass rush will fix a lot of stuff. And I really honestly believe I will be greatly disappointed if that pass rush is not better.
Before we go, Jerry, a question for you. So Jordan Hancock says he feels fine. McDermott said he had no update. Hancock says he feels fine. And he even went on to say that he hadn't had to stay on the field since his days in Little League. So he'd never even been down hurt, and he was a little bit scared. But he says he's fine. Jerry, did you ever have an injury where you thought right after, like, I'm fine, and then you're not? Because Hancock says he's fine. That's good news. I just hope he's right.
So it was, the only major injury I had when I played is when I broke my tibial plateau, and we ran a frontside G scheme where I was frontside guard pulls. They go in, blow it up. I get hit on my knee with a helmet. My knee goes back. I feel a pop, and I'm like, I just kind of lay on my stomach. I'm like, all right. I gather myself. I'm like, I didn't feel any pain. I'm good. And so then I went and pushed up to I do a push up. And when I pushed up off the ground, I came up on my toes. And about that time I came up on my right toe, my right knee just went, and those bones, they went together. And I was like, oh, I'll just stay right here. So that's when they came and helped me. It got me off the field. So yeah, I mean, in that moment, you don't think anything of it. Then it's just something a little weird. Like, oh, you're okay. And then you go to push up and you're like, nip, this isn't right. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit unnerving.
Well, he says he's fine. We'll see how it goes. Again, Cole Bishop was on a rep count. That's why he came out. So he'd been working to get back. He's been nursing injuries as well. The Bills get back to work this week. They'll finish the preseason in Tampa with a game against the Bucs, and hopefully, a better showing than we saw tonight. If for nothing else, than to get the Mafia to maybe take a breath. 38-0. And I don't think anyone's going to sugarcoat it. It was a rough one. Rough one for the officials. What was the final count on the flags in this game? I mean, it was out of control, the penalties in this game, the reviews in this game. It was a slog. We had 15 penalties, 10 of them called on the Bills, 5 on the Bears. And, reviews. And, of course, the brand new Hawkeye system to show us how you can measure, first downs. Great. It's wonderful. Anyway, all right, gentlemen, let's dismiss everyone from this exercise. Have a good evening. I got to get up bright and early and talk more about this game. You guys have more to do on this game, too. 38-0 Bears. That's a rough one, but that's a wrap for us here on the Bill Squad Show. So without further ado, have a great night and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
It's not playing the video for me. I'm trying. All right, might just have to end the stream. It's not going to play. It's that kind of night. It's preseason for everybody. All right, see you, folks.